on Bloomberg Quint.
Good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching Countdown on Bloomberg Quint Live, India's first digital live streaming business news service. Well, these are the top headlines that we're tracking at this hour. Markets trained in a range on the last day of the week. The Nifty trades above the 11,550 mark. Metals and auto stocks lead the gains. Bajaj Auto is among the top gainers in Nifty after the government plans to do away with any permits for auto rickshaws running on cleaner fuel. Regulatory issues return to haunt Sun Pharma. The US FDA has issued Form 483 on the company's Halol unit with 6 observations. And the surge in Aurobindo Pharma continues. The stock has gained nearly 20% in the last 3 trading sessions.
Well, viewers, thanks for tuning in to Countdown. My name is Neeraj, and the markets might be looking flattish, but the broader market strength is there for everybody to see. So we are at about 0.25% higher, so in and around that range of being at the highest point of the day. But pull up the mid-cap and the small-cap indices, and I think that's where the strength is evident. Look at that, 1% higher for the Nifty mid-cap space. May not be as much for the small caps, will come up on your screen as well, the intraday of the small cap index, but still about 0.5%, and because of which I would believe that the market breadth would be firmly in the positive. The advanced decline ratio should come up on your screen, and yes, about 3:2 in favor of the advances in the session today. So not a bad day if you're a broader market watcher. Pull up the heat map though, and let me talk about the index, and Dewan and Navneet will of course talk about what's happening across the market. But a fair bit of green on the screen. This is a bit of a mirror image of how we started off, wherein the red was enveloping the screen in a meaningful way. Right now there is a lot more green than red on the screen. Autos taking center stage. So Bajaj Auto, Hero MotoCorp, M&M, and Bajaj Auto is no longer one of the top gainers. Yes, it is number 5 on the list because M&M and Hero MotoCorp have overtaken that. Lupin continues to rise and shine, and it just shows the strength in select pharma names, because it's not just Lupin, as our headlines stated. Aurobindo Pharma too up and about in the session today. Good going there. Bharti about 3% higher, but frankly it looks like a day which belongs to autos and rate sensitives, because stocks like ICICI Bank, Bajaj Finance, Bajaj Finserv are doing well. Big boy Reliance Industries is giving support. What's lost out? Some losses for Yes Bank. Even Kotak Mahindra Bank at some point of time was down about 1.5%, and it still stays about 1.5% lower. Sun Pharma, stock specific news by the way, and therefore it's down about 2.5% in trade. But frankly, I mean, equal weightage out here between the losers and the gainers. Some heavyweight financial names like Kotak and HDFC down, which is putting the downward pressure on the index and maybe on the Nifty Bank as well. But overall, not a bad start, or not a bad start to this show in terms of the market breadth, and not a bad ending to the week as well, assuming that this is how it stays. But Devina, what are specific trends that you're spotting?
Well, like you rightly pointed out, it's the mid-cap space that's garnering a lot of interest towards this last 1 hour of trade or so. We've been seeing that climb since mid-afternoon, where you've seen a bump up on various stocks, various key sectors also starting to see a perk up. Yesterday was a key flavor of pharma. Today we are seeing a lot more interest in metals and autos as a pack. A few stocks to watch out for. Muthoot Finance, the stock reported numbers 3 days back, and since then it's been on a tear on the upside. The day it reported numbers was up 9%, yesterday was up 4%, today again a 3% bump up. JSPL is also doing okay for itself. You've got the likes of a TVS Motors, that stock is also doing well. It's up 3.5%. Remember, they also have a presence in the 3-wheeler space, so what works for Bajaj Auto works for them too. Max Financial is doing okay, 4.5% higher. Some paper stocks are active in today's session, and they have been so since the last few days. You've been seeing what's happening to the currency and what the implications are for some of these paper stocks. International Paper, Srivastava Paper, JK Paper, all in the green and very active on the volume side as well. A few of the volume buzzers in trade today that I would like to highlight. Mastech, which is up about 16% is doing so on the back of heavy volumes. Jubilant Life has got about 17.2 lakh shares which have traded. That's a very big bump up on the regular average of volumes that you're seeing for Jubilant Life. A good price performance of 7.5%. And then you've got the likes of Himadri Chemicals also on 20 lakh shares traded. Some top losers from the mid-cap end as well. Well, it's not all bright on the screen. You've got some stocks which have given up some gains. Merck is down about 2.3% in intraday trade today. V-Mart also gives up a bit, so 1.5% cut there along with an Adani Enterprise. Remember, yesterday we saw it trading ex-Adani Gas. The stock today has dipped about 4%, but lots more happening even in the futures and options space. Need.
Savina, thanks for that. Well, the Nifty futures have been trading around the mark of 11,600. In fact, there was a time during the day they were trading above that mark as well. But let me tell you, the premium has fallen for the second straight day, and we started this series on a higher premium. So in a way, it's good because higher premium leads to some bit of correction, which we've already seen for the markets. Bank Nifty September futures currently trading with premium of 100 points, 12% higher. Remember, yesterday there was some short covering seen for Bank Nifty, and today we're seeing some bit of fresh shots coming in for this one. In terms of options activity, there is more activity today on the put side as the 11,400, which is sitting with maximum open interest so far for September series, and also followed by the 11,500 strike. They've witnessed open interest addition of over 5 lakh shares, and also the IVs today have been higher on the put side. So in the last two sessions, remember, the put riders are back into the system. In terms of some stock futures which are in focus, one of them is Yes Bank, which is the top loser on Nifty today. It's also fallen on high volumes. So if you look at the AVAT function of Bloomberg, that's going to tell you the projected volumes of today vis-a-vis the average volume that one has seen in this counter in the last 20 trading sessions. So watch out for the delivery data. The white line is projecting today's volume, and the blue one is the average one of last 20 days. And definitely on the future side, look at the open interest up 22%, telling you fresh shorting has been seen in this counter. The other one is Hindalco, which is surged in the second half of the session. So definitely there is some buying momentum seen. It's one of the top Nifty gainers in today's session. And also, pardon me for the graphics, it's not the F&O loser, it's one of the gainers, Hindalco, in today's trade. Open interest is up 10%. Fresh long positions have been seen here. And also Aurobindo Pharma. This is the second straight day when the stock has gained significantly. Remember, yesterday it was up almost 9%, and today's gain have come in on very high volumes on the cash side. But I was just checking the delivery data yesterday when the stock was up nearly 9%. It was just about 15 to 16% in yesterday's session on NSE. So wait for the delivery data after the market closes. But activity continues on the futures side as the long build-up continues for this one. Second straight day of long positions for Aurobindo.
Well, so that's a bunch of movers flying around. Now, to a couple of stocks in news. Firstly, or pockets of news. The first one, the government plans to do away with any permits for auto rickshaws running on cleaner fuel. Remember, we spoke to Bajaj Auto in the morning about it. A company that benefits from this move is Atul Auto. To discuss this in detail, joining us now is Mr. Jitendra Adhia. He's the Vice President for Finance at Atul Auto. Jitendra, good having you. Thanks much for joining in. Now, you know, when we spoke to Bajaj Auto in the morning, they were saying that while this is in the realms of possibility, it's still not become a reality, and it could well take another 6 to 9 odd months for this to happen. What are the projections, or what are the timelines that you are working with? What's your current market share? In anticipation of this, are you thinking of expanding capacity?
See, first let us understand how the policy is going to be implemented. That is reality of today, because this particular issue is to be taken at a state government level. Once center clears the policy, then state has got its own bylaws. So first thing is that it will take its own time. Let us see how fast they can move, number one. Number two, another thing is that all the states were not on a capping regime. There were a couple of states where this capping or a quota system was prevailing across the states. In many states, these permits were available freely. So to evaluate how it is going to be impacted on demand, that is going to take some time. However, it is a positive news. It is going to be an advantage for industry as well. From Atul Auto's point of view, till last fiscal, we were addressing to rural market with our diesel product range. Last year only we launched our alternative fuel three-wheeler, and the product is getting settled. It would be little early to predict on a volume side.
Just comment on the total market share that you currently enjoy for this particular segment. What is your production capacity as it stands right now? And if at all this does apply to you and the state approvals do go through, what is it that you're looking to ramp it up to?
See, currently I am having a capacity of 60,000 units at our existing plant. We are under expansion. We are going to have another 60,000 units ready by another, say, 12 to 15 months time. So in totality, we'll be having 120,000 unit capacity, both plants put together. We have that fungible line, so depending upon the demand, that can be, either of the product line can be manufactured from both the plant.
Mr. Radhia, you've not heard anything from the ministry with regard to the timelines when this will be implemented, doing away with the permits in the three-wheeler space?
We are yet to have final news. However, it is a policy decision, and as I said earlier, it is going to be a prerogative of state, because state has got their own bylaws for this permit business.
Okay, just a clarity for the benefit of the shareholders of your company. You manufacture vehicles across fuel ranges, be it diesel, petrol, CNG, LNG, and also on the EV side. Could you give us the breakup? What percentage of the volume is coming from CNG, LNG, and EV, which will be impacted by this rule? See,
this particular range of alternative fuel were introduced last year only. We are still into a seeding phase. So obviously the numbers are not that great. However, month over month, this is having a positive composition, and contribution is much higher. We expect that in a medium term, it will contribute somewhere between 25 to 50% in my overall sales composition.
Right. So just one last question from my end in terms of this particular segment. What is the kind of margin contribution from this segment for you?
See, from product profile point of view, either of the vehicle has got the similar margin profile. Currently, Atul Auto is enjoying a lower margin on account of its expansion.
Okay. Sorry, have we lost Mr. Adhya? Okay, I think we've just lost that feed. The stock is up 5% and with reason. It kind of ties in with what Bajaj Auto was telling us in the morning as well, right? That there is obvious benefits out here. They will expand capacities. I'm guessing Bajaj Auto is clearly articulated that. And the benefits as and when they come in, but will come in only majorly in FY20. FY19 may not be then, may not see the benefits coming because we don't even know when these expansion plans will take place in the first place.
But it makes sense for Bajaj Auto because it's a big contributor to them. For a company like Atul Auto, market share that they enjoy probably is just in the single digits. So maybe this could be just a sentimental reflection of what's been happening, for Bajaj Auto itself. And they've said that it's the timeline that matters. So 6 months, 9 months, you don't know when it's actually going to kick in. And if at all the state governments decide to pitch in a little bit earlier, then it works for that.
It works. Mr. Adhya, just that one final question from my end. With an assumption that this comes around in full, in totality in FY20, what does current business momentum take your numbers to in FY19, and coupled with whatever little fillip that comes out of this measure, how does FY20 look like?
FY20 look like really promising, because by then we expect that there will be a positive sentiments all across the industry and business environment. So we are also excited. Number one, we are under expansion, so by then we will definitely have a sizable capacity to address full market pie, and our product will be also settled. All in all, what I can say is that we will definitely keep on growing somewhere between 10 and 20% year over year.
Okay, Mr. Adhya, we'll let you go on that note. Thanks a lot for joining us today and taking us through how that new rule impacts a company like yours. But remember, he's clearly highlighted there's no timeline which has been indicated by the ministry, but definitely they're working on it of doing away with permits which is required for the three-wheeler space. Atul Auto in today's session is up nearly 6%. Let's move on to our next management. It's good news for Indian steelmakers. The government has decided to do away with the anti-dumping duty on Chinese graphite electrodes. Well, this in turn can provide some relief for a couple of steel makers. Let's check with the management of Kalyani Steel whether they use this or not, and if yes, how does this impact? Managing Director of the company, Mr. R.K. Goel, is here with us. Mr. Goel, good afternoon to you, and thanks a ton for joining us today. Tell us first, do you use Chinese electrodes? Are you importing from there?
Good afternoon. We are definitely importing some small quantity of Chinese electrodes, but the landed price becomes very high in view of the anti-dumping duty. Maybe we will review our decisions now since the anti-dumping duty has been taken away.
Overall, with the do-away of this, how would that impact prices for you? And do you see a beneficial move in terms of the overall supply situation also improving, sir?
This is definitely going to be beneficial. We will have some alternate sources, but at the same time, you can't rely totally on Chinese because you are not very sure about their quality.
So just a word on your input cost. I believe iron ore prices have once again been raised by NMDC, which they've been doing it for past couple of months as well. And we've also seen the pet coke prices going up. So just to get a sense, have you taken any price increase sequentially to offset these higher input costs that the industry is facing?
You are absolutely right. Iron ore prices have gone up. Coke prices have gone up substantially. Ferroalloy prices have gone up. Rupee has depreciated, which has impact on all the imports. So in the process, our costs have definitely gone up substantially, and we have already demanded a price increase from our customers. Hopefully, we'll be able to settle with them very shortly.
No, Mr. Goel, if I can just bring it to this particular product, what would the current price, landed price, or the current existing price of graphite electrodes be in India that you consume, and how does this compare to what the prices were last quarter or the quarter before last?
You see, current landed price of graphite electrode is closer to 10 lakh rupees per metric ton, but it depends on what you are buying, whether you are buying RP, HP, or UP. So it depends on that, but typically for us, it is around 10 lakh rupees, and the Chinese electrode with this anti-dumping duty going away will be definitely cheaper than this.
Oh, this is compared to what it was a couple of quarters ago? I mean, have they moved up?
You see, around 15 months back, this price was around 1,35,000 rupees per metric ton. From that, this price has become close to 10 lakh rupees.
Okay. And sorry, just one follow-up. So you saying that with this duty coming in, or with this anti-dumping duty going off, those prices might come off a bit. Any guesses as to how much?
You see, anti-dumping duty was ranging from $200 to close to $1,000. So it will have an impact of up to 60,000, 70,000 rupees per metric ton.
So would that reflect in the prices of your final products which you put out in the market?
If we are able to import from China a good quality electrode, yes, it will definitely mean some saving, but we don't intend to import everything from China.
Yeah, so my next question is going to be, you said you're going to use some alternative sources. What would those be, and how much in terms of alternate sourcing will you be doing?
We have to decide depending on the quality, depending on the manufacturer we are able to select, but we would largely go by Indian manufacturers.
So I'm going back to my previous question of price hike. If you could just quantify for us, if you're looking to take more price hike in light of iron ore prices once again being hiked by NMDC, and if the hike that you're looking to take, will that be able to offset the entire increase that you're seeing in your input cost?
We are trying very hard. Hopefully we will succeed.
But any timeline that you can leave us with, or when you're looking to increase prices?
It will get settled. Before this month end, it will get settled.
Okay, and just a last question from my end. I was just looking at the shareholding pattern. The promoters have increased stake from 60% in the month of the quarter end of December to almost 64%. Are you looking to increase further stake in the company? Are the promoters rather looking to increase stake?
I'm not aware. that is an investor's or promoter's decision. I manage the company.
Sure, not a problem. Thank you, sir.
No,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Goyal, just one question though. In response to my colleague's question, you mentioned that you have not taken a call as to what you would do as a result of the savings that will come in from the graphite electrode prices cuts, with the presumption that these duties go off and you are able to import the right kind of electrodes. If that were to happen, would you use that to bump up your margins, or would these benefits be passed on to customers?
You see, it will be a very small thing.
Okay.
Number one, out of 10 lakh rupees, this saving may be between $200 to $1,000 per metric ton, which may mean 60,000, 50,000 rupees per metric ton. And then you use only 3 to 4 kg per ton of steel. So it is not going to be a very huge thing with this 60, 70,000, 5-6% reduction. But at the same time, yes, it was very important, and we are thankful to the government for doing the same.
All right, Mr. Goyal, we'll leave it at that. Thanks very much for joining, and really appreciate you taking out the time and running us through what this means for your company. That's Kalyani Steels. The stock's up about 3.5%. Other stocks which are doing well now, and you've seen Lupin going from strength to strength in the index. That's up about 5% right now. At the highest point of the day, 961 on the stock. M&M is doing okay, 4% higher, and Bharti Airtel has moved up into the list of top 3. 386 in the stock. You've got Bajaj Auto, which is not the highest gainer now. It's at 3.5%. GAIL, Hindalco, Tata Steel. So metals as a pack is doing okay for itself. You saw the price of Kalyani Steel also up from the smaller names. Amongst the losers, Yes Bank bleeds a little bit more. So 324 on Yes Bank, and Sun Pharma is down 2.5% right now, followed by SBI and Power Grid.
Can I just pull up Mastec Limited? It's up almost 17 to 18% right now, and just looking at the stock, I think the volumes are really on the higher side for this one vis-a-vis what was traded in yesterday's session. Compared to 50,000, today almost 11 lakh shares have been traded, so watch out for this one, 17% higher. Neeraj.
Well, Mastec is up, Scient is up, so that is doing well. L&T Info is up, that is trading at fresh highs. Mindtree is up, that's trading at fresh highs. So 3 or 4 IT names doing rather well for themselves. And just before we get in our veteran voice, just want to mark Hathway Cable. That one is up another 7, 8, 10%, if I'm not wrong, 11% now. 4 million shares traded. So from 15 rupees to 23, this one has moved quite swiftly. However, before we get in our technical experts on board, onto a Bloomberg exclusive, veteran emerging market investor Mark Mobius says emerging markets are the place to be in despite the recent sell-off. In an interview to Bloomberg Television, Mobius talks about the areas he finds value within the emerging market basket, including India. Listen in.
Look, value, definitely. I mean, we've seen so many of these markets bombed out. There's tremendous opportunities. I'm not saying you jump in with 2 feet, but at least you begin to stock pick. I mean, the beautiful thing about these situations is that there are always going to be winners and losers. Even if the Chinese situation gets worse with this trade war and Trump imposes this 20-25% tariffs, there'll be winners in China, and we've got to look for those.
So where would you be looking to buy? Because as I mentioned before, this is the worst sell-off peak to trough we've seen since 2008. And you have to wonder if it's going to be an FX, if it's going to be in bonds, if it's going to be equities, and what country specifics, Mark?
Well, definitely equities, because those are the things that have really been hit hard, with few exceptions. Of course, bonds in Argentina and a few other places like Turkey have been bombed out as well. But we think equities are the place to be. And the countries, we've been just putting together a model portfolio for our new funds. And Brazil figures in very highly in that. India, of course, is very big. Korea is in there. Those are the big ones at this stage of the game. But then along the sideways, we see things like Russia, opportunities in Argentina, opportunities in South Africa, and so forth. So there are lots of interesting things happening in these countries. And you got to remember that individual companies is where you got to focus, because a lot of individual companies are going to benefit from this kind of volatility that we've been seeing.
So, Mark, if there is going to be a turn in EM, and we're looking right now at a chart showing what's happening with currencies and stocks as well, where's it going to come from? Because isn't there a tightening of the Fed that's helping drive this? Isn't there a problem with the trade, as you referred to it, that continues even today? So what's going to turn it around?
Well, I think, first of all, you're going to see a devaluation of the renminbi. I mean, if you're sitting in Beijing and you have a 25% tariff being put into your on your goods going into America, the best defense would be to devalue your currency by that amount. So we could be seeing as much as 8 renminbi to $1. I mean, it's not beyond the possibility.
Well,
so I think this is the kind of thing you've got to watch for.
By the way, it's not just emerging markets, for that matter, Europe as well. Can that continue, or is there some reversion to the mean here?
No, there's no question that, you know, what's happening in the U.S. is having a tremendous impact, and interest rates are the key. I mean, with the Fed raising interest rates, and of course that's going to continue going on as the American economy booms and as unemployment goes down and the fears of inflation increase. So all of these emerging market currencies are going to have to be devalued. They've already happened, but you'll see more of that. But more importantly, you're going to see these countries being forced to raise interest rates, which will put a brake on the devaluation of their currencies. But that's going to happen. And of course, those people that are heavily in debt are going to be in real trouble in these countries. I'm talking about not only foreign debt, but domestic debt.
Okay, that's some voice, global voice with regard to what one can expect from the Indian markets going ahead. But let's get some technical thoughts also going, as Bank Nifty slipped a little further from the time that we started the show. It's down almost 0.5% right now. We've got Jai Bala of cashthechaos.com who joins us on the show now. Hi Jai, good afternoon to you from India, and good to have you back after a couple of months on Bloomberg Quint.
Thank you for having me.
Jai, what's the reading been so far on the benchmark indices, Nifty, Bank Nifty? We were touching record highs in the last few weeks. Then now there's been a phase of consolidation or rather correction that one has seen from the top this week.
Yeah, there's nothing much has changed for the index. You know, I think the new the meme for the bears is that September is a bad month for the indices. You know, they've been missing the rally because only a few stocks have been lifting that rally. It's not going to last and all those things. So the new meme is September is a bad month. So nothing has actually changed for the market. I think the low is already in for the market, or if that's not in, there's a small dip towards 11,280 for the Nifty. So in either case, the medium-term price objective remains 12,000 first, a small correction, and then 12,600 for the medium term. So it still remain bullish, still upside targets needs to be worked for the Nifty before the market turns for the other side.
What about the Bank Nifty, Jai, at this current juncture? Looking at how the individual performances have been and the split between the corporate-facing banks and the PSUs?
Yeah, it's a diverse pack there. As you rightly pointed out, those names that you mentioned will actually do well, and the PSU majority of the PSU banks aren't in a good position. But 27,100 on the banking index is pretty important. I think that's likely to hold, and you're going to have surprise move come through from Axis Bank. Axis Bank is actually broken out of a 3-4 year consolidation, and don't be surprised in a few weeks' time. You know, it starts to proceed towards 950 on a medium term, and
the audio on. I think we've lost the audio on Jai, but he seems to be bullish on these three names there: Axis Bank, ICICI Bank, and SBI. We'll try and connect with him in just a bit, but quickly just pull up the mid-cap and the small-cap index, because at the start of the show, when we highlighted the strength that came in from the particular space, it was the mid-caps that really is shown. So it's still holding on to its gains of 1-odd%. Suven Life is now about 10-odd% higher. Praj Industries is up 6.5%. Godfrey Phillips yesterday, towards the end of the trading session, shot up 8%, and today is carried on the momentum 3-odd% higher. I think Jai is back with us. Jai, you were making a point about the private banks. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Axis Bank is likely to surprise a lot of people. I have a possibility, maintain a possibility that the stock is heading to somewhere close to 900. Whenever a stock comes out of such a huge consolidation, the width of the move is equal to that distance it's going to travel. So that projects to somewhere close to 900. So even if that is too optimistic, I think we are expecting at least 750 for Axis Bank.
Okay. Now, just a couple of long-term charts. of the BSE Healthcare Index, that I want to bring up something that Jai has sent to us. And Jai, I mean, if there is one buzzing space in the last couple of weeks, has to be healthcare. In fact, this week too, arguably amongst the most active pockets. What are you trying to signify, or what are you trying to convey via these charts?
Yeah, first is the monthly charts that's probably in front of you. If you look at the monthly charts, if the low of recent move from the June lows is spot on at the 38.2 Fibonacci retracement. This kind of move doesn't normally fall in place. When that happens, you also have the market pulling back from those lows. If we pull up the second chart, which is the weekly chart of the BSE Healthcare Index, you can see a double bottom formation where by the index 3 weeks ago crossed the previous peak and completed the double bottom formation. Whenever such a formation happens, the distance it moves is equal to the height of the pattern, and that works to a minimum of 17,250. Although the main my criteria is the Elliott wave model, but with the Elliott wave model, the price objective for the BSE Healthcare Index is somewhere close to 22,500. So so we are looking at huge move for the pharma stocks, and the market is grossly underestimating the strength of this move. And if you look at the institutional broking, which have put out price objectives for most of these frontline names, if you ask me some of those frontline names, some of them will be as low as 50 to 100% below my price objective. We spoke about Glenmark Pharma the last time I was there on Bloomberg Quint. I think it was somewhere around the end of May. I said it's going to be a three-bagger when it was about 550, 540. So now it's moved up 25-30% from those levels, and it's just warming up. And watch out, what we saw in Sandoz Aurobindo deal, that's the kind of news you're going to get, because this is actually a wave 3 move. When an index or a security is in wave 3, you'll start getting shock and awe in the positive direction, and that's exactly what we saw in Aurobindo. So more such positive news is likely for the entire sector. As we speak, Dr. Reddy's is completing a double bottom. That's the biggie within the pharma name. So watch out. More and more positive news is going to come through for the sector. This sector is going to explode, continue to explode. It's not, and this is not information I'm having right at this point. I tweeted about this in the beginning of June when the pharma index was about 13,200.
In fact, guys, most of the Bloomberg analysts' price targets have been surpassed by 10% by each of these pharma names. So if you take an Aurobindo, after the last 2 days moves, now there's a negative potential return on it, a negative 12% on Dr. Reddy, a negative 16% on Lupin. So they've pretty much surpassed all of their target prices by a good margin. Yeah,
well, maybe sell side is a bit behind, and at some point of time when the positive news flow starts trickling in, those target prices will be revised. I think there the recency bias is what probably these guys suffer from, and not to be blamed as well. The sector has been a dog of a sector for a really long time now, but well, let's wait and watch what happens here.
Aurobindo Pharma, I don't know if there's some catch-up going on with regard to valuations. I was just checking. It's the cheapest, at least the large-cap pharma stock which is available. If you look at the FY20 estimates, it's just 16 times versus Sun Pharma. Or just take the rest pack, it's somewhere between 20 to 25, all of them are trading at. I don't know if there's a catch-up game going on with regard to valuations after the deal which has been announced.
Yeah, well, I think Darshan in yesterday's session on the opening show was speaking about some CMI data and how that too has pointed to some positives for each of these names. Glenmark featured prominently there. I'm tempted to follow up with the question on specific stocks with Jai Bala as well, because his today's ideas as well are all healthcare names. Jai, tell us about your recommendations.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't trade the index like the CNX IT index. So you got to have a strategy. Without all that, all these price objectives is pointless. The question I always ask investors is, do you have a strategy and can you make money out of it? So I need to be answerable to that question. So I'm going with a long on Apollo Hospitals. If you look at the, pull up a GPLW on Apollo Hospital, you'll see that or GPLM actually on Apollo Hospital, you'll see that this August close was actually piercing into the seven-month price action. So that is a telling move for Apollo Hospitals. It's saying that the 2-year downtrend for the stock is over, and it's heading somewhere close to a minimum of 1800, and the recent low is likely to hold. So that's the reason why I picked up that as my first pick. The second pick is on Kaplan Point, once again on the pharma sector. This is probably a stock which did phenomenally well in the last couple of years, but then once again similar to Apollo, it's been correcting recently and it's coming off the recent lows. And I think it's got a terrific potential over the 3 to 6 months time frame. I think it's likely to hit somewhere close to 950. So one can place a stop below the price I've shown on the screen, and hold on to it for the medium term. Both are likely to perform really well. When Apollo Hospital starts moving, it just it's unstoppable. So 1800 could also be conservative target.
Okay, those are two bets coming in on Apollo Hospitals as well as Kaplan Point, besides the banking stocks mentioned by Jai Bala. Let's also bring in Amar Singh of Angel Broking, who joins us on the show now. Hi Amar, good afternoon to you. How are you trading the index today? Some sideways moves definitely seen, but there was some bit of support-based buying which came in yesterday's session around the levels of 11,500, and today we've been able to support the 11,550 mark in trade as well.
Yeah, looking at the index, definitely the trend remains positive. There's no doubt about it. It is trading in overbought territory, so that is definitely a sign of caution. But overall, if you look at it from a short-term perspective, the correction which was there, it took very good support around 11,400 odd levels, and from there it has bounced back. But what we see is that the gravity of the fall which is there clearly reflects that now we will witness choppy trading sessions on the index, and on the upside 11,630, 650 zone, that should act as an immediate level of resistance, whereas on the downside I would say 11,440. So 11,440 and 11,640, that's the range which I see the index trading in, and also the index is likely to consolidate. But overall, the trend definitely remaining positive for the index.
You've also got a pharma name in your list, Amar. Lupin is what you like. The stock's already run up today. Is there still more potential upside? And you like Marico and Tata Chemicals?
Yeah, talking about Lupin, what we are seeing in Lupin is that definitely it was consolidating for the last couple of days, and then today has been a significant day, almost up by 5%. And what we see is that taking out the 957 high, which was earlier acting as a crucial resistance. And if you look at this chart on a monthly time frame, what we are seeing is now the stock is headed higher towards 1020 levels. And also on other time frames, longer term time frames, it is in oversold territory, and from there it has been moving. And the intermediate term trend definitely remains extremely strong and positive. So Lupin, any dip can be used as a buying opportunity in Lupin. The levels for Lupin currently is trading higher, but when we had identified this call, it was trading around 930, 935. So any pullback can be used as a buying opportunity. Ideally, the stop loss needs to be below 900 with a target of 1,000 on the upside. The second stock to look at is Marico. What we are seeing in Marico is that Marico has been correcting, and it has corrected sharply. If you look at the levels from almost 387 levels, it came down to 350. And now it is witnessing some consolidation, but it has got extremely strong support at lower levels. So any pullback in Marico can be used as a buying opportunity, 355, 356. The current levels one can look at buying with a stop loss of 348 and a target of 372 in the short term. And the third stock to look at is Tata Chemicals. This is one stock which continues to trade firm on the short term as well as the medium term trend. Long term, I would say that it is witnessing some consolidation. But overall, the trend remaining positive for this stock. It has got extremely strong support below the 740 mark. So any pullback towards 745, 750, that can be used as a buying opportunity with a stop loss of 732 and a target of 786 in the short term.
Okay, stay on, gentlemen. Lots more to talk about. Neeraj Dewan, director at Quantum Securities, with us on the show now with his thoughts. Neeraj, good having you. Thanks so much for joining in. Good afternoon. Seems to be an auto day today. Somehow, one announcement in Bajaj Auto notwithstanding, almost everything else has gone up. There's a Tata Motors in the green. Hero Motocorp has had some bit of gains as well. And Bajaj Auto, of course, on that piece of news that has come out, is trading very high. What have you observed, and why this momentum out here?
Yeah, good afternoon, Neeraj. I think if we specifically talk about Bajaj Auto, after the numbers came for the last month, the numbers were very good. Previous quarter we got disappointed because even the management said that they're going to, compete in the lower segment and try and gain market share. But this month's numbers proved what they're saying, and I think that strategy of Bajaj Auto is paying, and they were able to increase their market share, and the volumes were really good in the last month. Barring that, even I think domestic, you see the exports from Bajaj Auto, they have been also increasing over the last couple of months, quarter. And they will also improve because the rupee is weakening now. With the rupee weakness, I think exports will further get a boost as far as Bajaj Auto is concerned. And and plus what you mentioned about the permit announcement that came today, that will also improve their three-wheeler sales, and plus they announced a capacity expansion also there. So I think that will make a case strong for Bajaj Auto. And specifically, if you talk about autos, Tata Motors, because of the numbers from JLR, Land Rover, which have been really disappointing over so many months now, were very good this time around. And domestic commercial vehicle sales are also improving for them. So I think and Tata Motors stock had corrected tremendously in the last 2-3 months. So I think there is some bounce back happening because of that, which is showing in the price action in Tata Motors.
Just pull up Yes Bank. The stock has been reeling under pressure in the last 7 trading sessions, taking its 7-day tally to a negative 11.5%. Today's session is no different. The stock has plummeted about 5% one of the worst performers within the banking pack and on the index as well. Volumes are strong on that one. Last 1 month performance also has given a dip of about 15.5%. Jay, a Yes Bank on the charts, is there more pain left?
Yeah, it's a very difficult chart. Actually, it's very choppy, and the price objective was about 400 odds, and that's done that. From there, it's been reeling under the pressure, and the support starts coming around about 326, and if that goes it's something like sub 300. So not an easy chart to interpret, and it's not easy, and it's a very choppy chart. And I would stay away from this counter if you're long, and it's going to find it very difficult to cross 370. But by some outside chance, if 370 is taken out, I think 450 is coming, but that's very unlikely.
Neeraj, so one pack is autos, the other rate sensitive pack, but which is chalk and cheese today, is private banks. Yes Bank is down, Kotak is down. On the other hand, there are a couple of other banks which are doing rather well in trade today as well. Now that the corporate-facing banks are no longer as cheap as they were about a couple of months ago, how does the pecking order change for the corporate-facing banks or for the private banks at large?
I am more positive on the PSU corporate-facing banks. So I think there also one needs to select the banks which have capital, and when the demand is coming, maybe this quarter or next quarter, down the line. So I think they should have the capital to lend. So I would really go for PSU banks which have the capital. And in the private sector banks, I'm also positive on corporate-facing banks like Axis Bank. I think Axis Bank also valuation-wise, though we've seen the price going up, but still, the price is still attractive, and you've seen that the stock had run up to 660 and then again corrected. So I think that stock can also be looked at for long-term investors. So I think my preference would be with PSU banks which have capital to lend. So to name some of them would be, of course, State Bank, Canara Bank, Bank of Baroda, Indian Bank, and in the smaller ones, Vijaya Bank. So this is the PSU bank which we are positive on.
Okay, those are some picks coming in from the PSU banking space. Neeraj, we spoke about the auto pack, and I think among the large caps you did mention about Bajaj Auto. In the auto ang space, what's the rationale behind Jamna Auto? What's making you bullish on this one?
Actually, we've been positive on Jamna Auto because it's a debt-free company. And with the commercial vehicle sales going up, this company is also showing tremendous growth on their top line. Volumes are really picking because they are catering only to commercial vehicles, and in the OEM, they have more than 70% market share in the leaf spring business. So because the company's ROCs are very strong at 30% plus, and what has happened then post GST, their focus area where the growth is much more is the replacement market. So replacement market has also been growing because there they had a lower market share than the OEM market share where they have 70% plus. So the replacement market share has also been increasing for them because now post the GST, unorganized sector is not really competitive. So that is giving them a boost. Plus they are to see that there's sustainability of growth going ahead. They're even going for new products. So they're going for some suspension-based product for commercial vehicles, which will also make sure that the next 2-3 years also the company keeps on growing at the same pace which it will be growing. And valuation-wise also we are very comfortable. So even if you value the stock at 13-14 EV by EBITDA, you get a decent upside. I think the target comes to 115-120 FY20 basis.
Auto is almost recovered from the day's low. It's currently sitting with gains of 1.5%. Jai Bala, if I could come to you and take your view on if you're tracking the rupee and the crude chart as well. I remember in the past you had your thoughts on the levels what crude could touch. Do you see the Brent crude prices inching up from the current levels?
Yeah, what I have is, I recently said that, Brent would drop to 71 and people mistake that for a change of trend. And what Brent did actually, it overshot that 71 and then it's coming up now. For the extreme short term, I see a pullback somewhere close to 74, 74 and a half for Brent. And then my medium term trend, which I have a price objective of 87 to 90 for Brent, that takes over. So, there's more, upsides left for Brent. And as far as rupee goes, when Bloomberg had a different home back in 2013, I had said that the short term, there's a pullback coming somewhere close to 58, whereas the long term it's going to settle somewhere close to 74 to 77. So 72 is not probably the final low. If the pullback for the rupee is shallow, which I think is going to be the case. And most probably it's not even going to break 70. That's going to be the case. I think further record lows are coming for the rupee.
These variables, Jai, they impact the stock and the fundamentals of Jet Airways, and that's another stock I think you've tracked very closely in the past. What are the charts suggesting? Has it bottomed out, or do you foresee more selling pressure on Jet Airways?
Jet has been unresponsive to a deeply oversold level, and even the pullbacks that are coming through for Brent. Even it's not responding even to that. It's supposed to have bounced somewhere close to 325 to 360. It's being quite unresponsive to that. But be that as it may, whenever the next bounce comes, that's not the change in trend. That's actually a relief rally. Still, further record lows are coming through for Jet Airways as well as Indigo. So I think further pain is left for this aviation sector. And yeah, it could be value, but you could be a bit early and stuck, and you could face further headwinds within the sector. Allow it to go to further record lows, and then we can look at picking up this stock with this particular sector.
Jet Airways down, but Interlude and SpiceJet and intraday trade are doing okay for themselves. Mastech is a stock that I think Navneet highlighted earlier on, that it's up on heavy volumes. Amar, at 611, what would you do with a Mastech? Has it broken any key technical indicators?
Yeah, looking at this particular, I would say stock, what we're seeing is today it has been a very sharp move for this particular counter. And if we look at it earlier also, somewhere around 605, I would say in April, 23rd of April, it had made a high of 618. So I would say that that could be a level of resistance. But yes, technically the stock is looking strong on the charts. And if it sustains above 618.20 levels, then the stock is headed higher towards 660 levels.
Okay. I'm just looking at stocks which have done reasonably well for themselves. From the media pack, Network 18 is up about 6%. As I highlighted, Hathway Cable is up about 12-13%. And the one which has been in news the last couple of days has been Z, down in today's session too, marginally at that. Excuse me, after being down about a couple of percentage points the other day. Neeraj, Dewan, any thoughts on, this diverse set of pockets within media that I spoke about? Any thoughts on any of these companies or any other company in the media pack that you guys have coverage on and are bullish?
See, we don't really cover any of these companies that you mentioned, but Z is one stock which I've been tracking over the years, where I've seen that whenever there are any dips in Z, it's always been an opportunity, and the stock over the years has given it very good return. So I think Z again, because of the news flow around it, because of some pressure which may come because of investments to be made, some margin pressure may come in the shorter term, but I think from a long-term perspective, Z has always created wealth. So I think this would be again an opportunity to invest into a stock like Z, which has corrected almost 30% odd from the peaks. So this would be one stock which one should look at on this dip.
Yes, other ideas, Neeraj, the stock that you want to talk about, or rather stock that you are bullish on in Axis, is Action Construction Equipment. Why this one?
Yeah, actually we've seen in the last couple of quarters there have been tremendous volume growth which is happening for the various products. So this company is into cranes, construction equipment, agricultural equipment, and material handling equipment. So though if you compare it to the last year, this first quarter to the last year numbers, the volume growth has been as high as 70-80% because of low base last year. But there is tremendous improvement happening on the margin front also because of the improvement in the various segments. I think this is because the construction, road construction and the construction activity picking up, I think, which is one signal that you are in the early stages of economy picking up. And we've seen that, we saw major purchases of equipment only 12 years back in 2005-2007 period. So this company did very well at that time as far as volume growth was concerned. I think now, because 10-12 years when people had actually bought equipment, now a lot of equipment needs to be replaced also. So I think that is why the demand is coming for the equipment. And we've seen a decent volume growth. We've seen some stock movement also happening in the last 1 year. But even after the movement, we've seen with this company on estimates can do about 10-11 EPS next year. So, and they having a good ROC of 18-20 can command a multiple of 18-20 times. So our target comes to 180-200 for this stock for 1 year forward.
Okay, that's Action Construction. Can we just pull up the intraday chart of Bank Nifty? That's turned green right now, and it's inching very closer to the mark of 27,500. So there's been a big recovery in Bank Nifty just in the last 5 to 10 minutes of trade. Neeraj, before we let you go, I believe you also have a call on Cadila Healthcare, where you're finding some bit of comfort with regard to valuations. If I were to compare this stock to Aurobindo Pharma, which has been in focus, I think that's even cheaper than Cadila. So what's the other rationale here?
See, basically, Aurobindo, I think there's been positive news flow. So Aurobindo will definitely benefit because of that. But, the kind of debt that Aurobindo has doesn't give me that kind of a comfort. I'll use Aurobindo more like a trading bet than a long-term investment. But Cadila, I've seen over the years, they have been growing. Even the last some quarters, we've seen good volume growth happening in Cadila. That was there in the last quarter also. We saw almost 30% volume growth. And, even after the stock price run-up that we've seen, the stock still has the potential of giving a 10 to 15% return in 1 year. So, and that would be on a very conservative, for 24-25 times EPS. So I think that, and plus there's so many products lined up, I think, which in the next 1.5 years, they can get a lot of more product approval that will come their way, and that can give them positive surprises to the earnings also.
Neeraj, Dewan, thanks very much for joining us. Really appreciate you taking out the time and sharing your thoughts and ideas with us. So quite a lot of stocks there that we've discussed with Neeraj. Jai, one last question before we let you go as well. While we've been talking about all the positives in the market, is there anything negative that's caught your eye that could possibly be a sell?
Negative. Yeah, basically, see, it's the the FMCG sector. It's in a deep correction, but it's not a change in trend. So but it's a high risk sell. I think it's more than better than avoid. So if you just have to sell, you got to go for something like the PSU banks or something like that. But so I don't see anything to sell at this point of time. But if we have to sell, probe a short when the Nifty gets somewhere closer to 10,600. Probably if that stops you out, that's a sign that the market is going to record highs.
All right, Nifty at 10,600. That's quite a long shot away right now. Jai Bala, thanks very much for joining in. Appreciate you taking out the time. Those are some ideas and some technical calls coming in from Jai Bala. Time for a short break now on Countdown. On the other side, we will get you the Fab 4 stocks of the day. At 3:15, we get you what dealing rooms are recommending and some closing strategies as well.
Good news, got a promotion and a damn good raise.
Congrats, beta.
वाह, raise? अब तो insurance policy ले ले.
कौन सी कंपनी से लूं?
Choose वही जिस पर हो पूरा भरोसा.
That's good. But आज की generation wants everything online. Easy premium payment options, loan facilities और wide range of products.
पापा दीदी, I will decide. Just send your links now. तुम दोनों भी ना. Same choice. LIC.
LIC. Trending with times. 62 सालों से हर generation की पसंद.
The heart wants what it wants, and mine has led me to some amazing highs and lows as I followed its guidance from software development to investment banking and then into my own startup. I am Ahmed Aftab Nakhri and my journey has been a roller coaster ride. When I started my company with a single laptop in a garage and 2 friends armed with just the burning desire to create something, I had no idea that we would create a whole new paradigm of marketing. Today, Gozoop is at the forefront of the industry, a thought leader in the space, and voted as one of the best places to work for in India. But we didn't get there quickly. But everything taught me and engineered our success. It's an interesting story, and I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you.
Aegon's of business never stop. Only on Bloomberg Quint.
September 15th, 2008. The day a titan of the investment banking world fell. An event so unlikely that when it happened, it shook the world economy. 10 years later, the world has picked up the pieces. Or has it? Bloomberg Quint looks back at the collapse of Lehman, its aftermath on India, and the recovery that followed. Lehman, a decade later.
Kerala is tiding over the worst calamity that the state faced in a century. The intensity of the calamity and the losses suffered thereby are unparalleled. A preliminary assessment pegs the loss at around of rupees 20,000 crores. It is a humongous task to undertake various tasks of rehabilitation and reconstruction. Only with the wholehearted support and cooperation of all of you, we can rebuild Kerala. Your contribution, however small, will go a long way in achieving this goal. Please contribute to the Chief Minister's Disaster Relief Fund. We shall overcome.
Back with us on Countdown right here on Bloomberg Quint. About 30 minutes left for the markets to shut shop. Just look at the gains in some of the auto names. Bajaj Auto is now up a whopping 5%. Hero MotoCorp 4.8% as well. Mahindra & Mahindra about 4% higher in trade. Tata Motors is about 3% higher in trade. So there are gains for the auto pack which are thick and fast. Bajaj Finance has reversed some of the dull moves of the last few days with about 2.5% uptick and trading well close to the high point of the day. So good going really for a lot of these rate sensitives, save for two names, which is Yes Bank and HDFC. I might add a Kotak Bank and an SBI there too, but Yes Bank and HDFC, two principal losers from the financial space in the session today. However, what's happening to funds? What's happening to mutual funds? The total equities under management, assets under management, were at a record high in the last month and were recorded at 8.04 lakh crores. More importantly though, the quantum of flows into equity mutual funds cooled off a little bit. Jayesh Khilnani caught up with NS Venkatesh, who is the CEO at Amphi, to discuss this in detail and started by asking him about the reasons behind the dip in the equity inflows. Listen in to what he had to say.
Whatever you are seeing is temporary, which is more or less getting marked with the market volatility that we have observed. But if you look between last month and this month, it's hardly around 800 crores. So that is not a trend for us to predict upon that. So I would always say that the equity is a preferred investment route, which is borne out by the fact that the SIP numbers which are coming in. The SIP number has grown by 100 crores between July and August. August number is somewhere around 7,600 and odd crores. And SIP, 90% of the contribution goes into the equity schemes. So I'm quite confident that the retail participation is intact. Maybe some wholesale participations are moving in and out to book their profits and then await a better opportunity for them to re-enter. So I would say that the retail story is intact onto the equity market.
But yeah, coming to the SIP number that you were mentioning, it's somewhere about 7,600 odd crores. Now, if I look at it, 7,600 crores, yes, that looks a very good number because it's at a record high once again. But in the overall context of things, it means that there has been no incremental flows or new money has not come in, because the total inflow is just over 8,000 crores. Out of which 7,600 you're saying came in via the SIP route. So, you know, there's some bit of concern on that front as well. How would you address that?
No, I would say that it is a market phenomenon. When the market is behaving so much with so much volatility, and even if when you are looking at the index moving up, but only the 4 stocks participating or 5 stocks participating into that, that will definitely have some bearing on the investment behavior coming in. But what we need to see is whether the retail investor is continuing to be remaining within the market, and he is remaining within the market, which is borne out by the fact that the SIPs are increasing. Even at SIPs level, 100 crores has increased between July and August. So that itself shows that there is a keen interest which is happening into the equity space. Going ahead, when the correction is completed, whatever market correction is completed, then you will see much more participation in a broader scheme from, let us say, the larger players coming into the equity space. Then that will happen. But having said that, we need to superimpose it with the macroeconomic fundamentals of this country. If you look at the macroeconomic fundamentals of this country, it is very good. The GDP growth numbers are exceedingly good, and as a country, we are one of the fastest growing countries in the world, and you will definitely see people coming back. But there are certain global sort of phenomena which is happening, which is where maybe some flight of capital has moved from India to outside India, but that is getting counterbalanced by the SIP as a contribution which is coming in. That is where you are seeing the market remaining at these levels and are not falling down or having a knee-jerk reaction to these sort of foreign outflows which are happening in this country. So I would say we will actually see the market rebounding from here, and that will have a very positive spin-off to the mutual fund inflows into the equity schemes.
One final question on the balance flow front. Now, the number that you have given is about in excess of 2,500 odd crores. But my calculation suggests that, you know, if I remove the balance fund NFOs, which were to the tune of about 4,500 odd crores, this time around balance flow would have been a negative number, which is, you know, not the case because of the NFO. So your thoughts on the balance fund?
But people are contributing to the NFO. What does it indicate? It indicates that whatever is the correction which has to happen in the balance fund schemes are completely over. So they are coming into the balance fund, and whatever they would have withdrawn could be because their goals are met or their profits are realized. So they have taken the profits and then coming back in through an NFO route, or maybe parking it into the liquid funds as an asset rotation strategy. So I think the investor is a very, very wise investor in India. We'll have to give full credit to him. So he is taking the right steps at this particular point of time.
Okay, that's of course Amphi, and I think there would be, I don't know if there will be wider implications of what's happening this month for the months ahead or no, but if the funds flow were to slow down at a time when world markets are starting to look a bit jittery, that could be a bit of an issue. Let's wait and watch. Too much to think about right now, or rather too much too soon. And let's not draw any presumptions. Let's wait for this to become a trend, if it were to become a trend, and then talk about it. However, before we move any further now and get in our next set of guests, let's find out what's made it to Yash Upadhyay's list of the Fab 4 stocks of the day. Yash.
Good afternoon, Neeraj. So Kaplan Point is the first stock on my list. It's up almost 4.5% today after the company said that it has received 0 observations under the Form 483 for its key sterile injectables unit located in Tamil Nadu. Autos is the theme today. So Motherson Sumi, that is up about 4.5% today after the company announced a surprise bonus issue of 1:2. Also, Bajaj Auto is in focus. It's up 5% today following the announcement by the Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari at the CM event yesterday, doing away with the permit regime for rickshaws using alternate fuels. The company plans to expand its rickshaws and quadricycle production to as much as 1 million units per year. And the last stock that I want to highlight is Jubilant Life. That one's up about 7%. It's gained almost 15% in this week, with volumes too coming in significantly higher, almost 6.5 times the 20-day average. Back to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Yash, for bringing those Fab 4 stocks of the day. And we were mentioning how Bank Nifty is recovered. Just wanted to highlight RBL Bank, I believe, which is your one of the top gainers right now. 3% higher for this one, almost 3% higher at day's high. Let's bring in Sarvendra Srivastava, independent market expert, who joins us on the show now. Hi, Sarvendra. Good afternoon. 0.5% higher for Nifty, inching once again very closer to the mark of 11,600. And it has been a support-based buying, which has come in right since yesterday, once at 11,500, now at 11,550. Are you taking any fresh trades right now?
Yeah, very good afternoon. Yeah, I think the trade is would be slightly late, but since we come on Fridays, so we will take these levels and then try and figure out a trade. Last week we had targets on the downside at around 11,550, so those were met. And we continue to believe that as long as as the Nifty stays above 11,200, there's a bullish gap area there. As long as the spot stays above that number, the overall trend, the short-term trend could be up, but we are still at key medium-term to long-term target areas. So definitely within the medium to longer-term setup, these are areas where the risk is at its highest. So by no means this is a low-risk area. This is a high-risk area for Nifty, especially for the buyers, because the readings are like that. And my sense is that anybody wanting to trade should just keep a 1 to 2 day horizon, since the trend is up. If you are just a smart short-term trader, you would look to buy for the next 1 or 2 days and you would look for a target of around 11,680 on the Nifty on the upside on the spot. Purely a 1 or 2 day call. Beyond that, you should not carry this. And if you are doing that, you will keep a stop loss at 11,544.40 on spot. So I would say a buy, but a slightly risky buy.
Okay. Just stay on with us, Sarvendra. I want to pull up a Page Industries. Yesterday's session was not particularly good. We did see a dip of about 2.5% coming into the counter. But today looks like there's cheer back into it. So 4% higher at the highest point of the day for Page Industries. Volumes have also not been all that bad. Amar, I want to come to you with Page Industries.
Overall, looking at Page Industries, we did see the stock correct from almost 36,000 levels. And it has bounced back. So what I see is that it has taken, technically it has taken very strong support around these levels. And from those levels it has bounced back. So the low which it made of 31,400, now that should act as a short-term bottom, because the stock overall, the trend, if you look at the trend and the trend strength for this stock continues to be extremely strong. So what it means is that there is a further upside potential for the stock towards 34,000 levels in the short term, and the stock is likely to trade firm.
All right. Lancelot de Cunha, Chief Investment Officer at ValueX, also joins us on the show right now. Lancelot, good afternoon to you. What is it that you're advising your clients at this point?
Well, it's a very difficult time to advise clients, because on the one hand, we have seen individual stocks move up in terms of valuations. And the results of this quarter, while they have been improved, they have shown, most of the companies have shown improved performance. They really don't justify, investing at higher levels. However, in this past few days fall, some of the, FMCG's companies have come off, and that makes an attractive entry point, because you can see sustainability of earnings from the FMCG companies going forward, and that is an encouraging sign. So while one may try to do some bottom fishing, I think it's too early to do bottom fishing in sectors that are beaten down. But wherever there is correction and you see good earnings growth, I think that's where one can start investing in this kind of a market.
All right. Let's quickly run through Sarvendra's strategies as well. He's got a buy call at Amar Raja Battery, Tata Motors and Ajanta Pharma. Sarvendra.
Yeah, absolutely. Over the next couple of days, I think we will look at more buys than sells. And what we are saying here is that Amar Raja Battery probably at longer term support areas, if not more, at least could give you a pop and a bounce. So 830 is what I would recommend as a target for Amar Raja going forward. I would keep a stop loss there at 808.40. All my levels always are on the spot levels, both for the Nifty and the stocks. Next one, I have a call that we are reiterating again, and that is Tata Motors. We have been advocating and highlighting medium to long-term longs around these areas. 250, 260 has been a long-term support area for Tata Motors. But again, for a small little pop, if not more, it can definitely be played for the next 2-3 sessions. A target of around 290, 292 is possible for Tata Motors going forward. And there I would keep a stop loss at 273.40 on whatever trades that I take. And last one will be a sell on Ajanta Pharma. The stock has slightly gone beyond our expectations. So ideally 1240, 1250 thereabouts should have been the cap for this stock. But I would still believe that the stock is headed down. So I will take I'll take a trade here as well. This will be on the sell side. I'll sell Ajanta Pharma for a target of 1220. And there are medium to long-term distribution setups here. And while keeping that trade on, I will keep a stop loss at 1301.60 for Ajanta Pharma.
Just looking at what's happened this week as well, and the laggards within the leaders are the ones which are actually doing well too. So while IT as a pack would be doing well, but if you look at this week, it is Wipro and HCL Tech, the two stocks that have gained the least this year, YTD, which are the top performers this week. So good gains out there. Lancelot, what are you doing in large cap IT?
Well, in large cap IT, I'm not buying at the moment. Probably bought earlier, so just sitting on the current investment. I think TCS has announced a buyback, but I do believe that if one doesn't offer shares, you'll be better off, because with the reduction in the outstanding capital, you will see it TCS get the benefit in terms of a greater earnings per share. And I also feel that the current currency depreciation, the rupee depreciation that we've seen, is also positive for the IT companies, and we should see better earnings from them going forward. So as far as large cap companies are concerned, I think stay invested and wait for any correction, because I think they still need to correct if they want to become an attractive buyer at this point in time.
Okay, that's the view on IT pack. Most of the constituents of the Nifty ID have been up and about for the week, but pull up Bharti Airtel, that surged right now and it features among the top 3 gainers on Nifty. It's up almost 4.5%, sitting at day's high. Amar, what are you making of the 4.5% move at 389, 390? Would you take a long bet on Bharti Airtel?
Bharti Airtel, the stock has been consolidating for since, I would say, since the end of July, and it has been consistently trading in a range of 360 and 390. So now that level seems to be taken out. It's currently around 389 levels, and if I look at the intermediate term trend, that is definitely positive and gaining in strength every day by day. But on the upside, I would say the stock has got very strong resistance coming around 410, 420 zones. So that's a level where we would witness profit booking in the stock. But yes, the worst seems to be over for the stock, and the stock could trade higher towards 415, 420 levels in the short term.
Interesting other moves in a bunch of stocks. I was looking at stocks which are trading at 52-week highs. Texmo Pipes is up another 20%. The paper companies, Seshasai Paper as well as International Paper, are up about in the session today, up about 8% apiece. So good going for them. And there is Usha Martin, which is about 6% at 34 odd rupees. So good going for that one. ICICI Lombard has bounced back very strongly, 874 and counting. So that's about 2.5% too. So select stocks, good moves there, trading at fresh highs for themselves. Our dealing room's talking about them. That's the question. Let's ask this to Yatin Motai Johnson with his channel checks. Yatin. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Neeraj. Of course, the market, despite being not too much in terms of the gains percentage-wise, but we have seen the mid-cap end of the market bounce back smartly. Shriram Transport Funds, that is one stock wherein dealers are recommending a BTST kind of a strategy. Remember, in the last 10-15 minutes of trade, we have seen good traction on good volumes. Of course, the stock has corrected 10% from the recent highs, but there is some bounce back is what dealers are expecting at this point in time. So Shriram Transport is one stock that they are talking about. Apart from Shriram Transport, the pharma pack is quite active. Sun Pharma recovered from the day's low. Cadila Health also broke out in the green, and dealers do indicate that in the pharma stocks we have a lot of domestic funds which are accumulating shares at lower levels. So that stock, that pharma pack is in focus from the retail side as well as from the institutional side, and HNIs are quite active as far as Cafe Coffee Day is concerned. We flagged off, in the previous dealer segments as well as to how really HNIs are lapping up shares of Cafe Coffee Day. Even at these levels, stock is up 4% on decent volumes of 3.5 lakh shares.
Sarvendra, any of these stocks? Thanks, Yatin, for that. Any of these stocks, Sarvendra? Cafe Coffee Day, or for that matter, Cadila?
Not. Cadila is among coverage. Cafe Coffee Day is also there, but it's a very thinly traded stock many times. Cadila within the pharma space, I think the way it's shaping up and the way we had a kind of a mini selling climax in the last couple of months, I think a lot of volumes happened there and little deliveries were also thrown in. And that V-shaped recovery, which was in the early part of August, I think those 5-7 days are now the key. And we have started to trade above that entire V-shaped breakout. So I think those numbers were around 380, 390. So I would say that looking at a slightly long-term 380, 390 for Cadila will be a very good support going forward, which means that essentially any decline towards those areas can definitely be bought into, and you should be looking at higher targets. Coming to the target point, I think I would assume that eventually over the next 12-8 months, the stock has got the potential to probably break past all-time highs at around 550 also. But as I said, this will be a slightly long-term call, and minimum patience required here is 6 to 12 months.
Okay, that's Cadila Healthcare for you. A couple of metal stocks are also buzzing today. So I think you've got the Nifty Metals Index, which is up nearly 2% in trade. Moil has seen gains of almost 5%. Jindal Steel and Power is up 3.5%. And Tata Steel being a nifty constituent, we've been talking about that one. And NMDC on news of price hike has seen some good gains coming in today's session. Lancelot, what's the reading on the metals pack? On the ferrous, on the non-ferrous side, are you bullish on any of the stocks?
Well, I've been bullish for quite some time, but now we need to wait and see, because I think with the increase in in fuel prices, that could impact the profitability of the metal companies. The metal companies that are India focused could have some problem. I think the big companies that are there are Tata Steel and Hindalco. They have most of their production facilities outside India, and that business could get impacted negatively by the trade tariffs that have been imposed on metals being shipped from these countries into the US, and so that could have a bit of a negative impact. I also believe that some of the companies who are importing iron ore as well as coal, etc., they could see, because of this devaluation in currency, that could impact their margins and increase their costs, input costs, and that could have a bit of a negative impact. So I think this September quarter numbers are going to be key to understand what is the trend going forward, because I think we are seeing a new normal where the dollar is going to be in a new range, and crude prices are also in a new range. So this seems to be the situation that's going to probably continue for quite a while from now, and that could result in a different scenario for many companies, which they would not have been anticipated, and we should see how that impacts them and then take a call on their valuations.
Lancelot, just one follow-up before we take in closing strategies. HDFC AMC as a stock has corrected about 9-10%, at least until yesterday's closing price. In today's session, down another % odd. So it's a large cap stock in fancy, giving some corrective moves. Would these be opportunities to invest into companies like these, or would you wait for some more valuation correction?
I would not invest at this high valuation, because you see, when you are paying almost 90 times to 100 times earnings, unless the earnings grows at least 50-60% compounded every year, and that too for a sustained period, then only you will start to see the impact on the price, and that is very difficult in an industry that has a good amount of competition. You could see outflows because of markets. So I think it's a very high valuation to give HDFC Asset Management. Although what appears to have happened is probably a lot of institutions are underinvested in the stock, and they are accumulating the stock at these levels because they would have got some allocation in the IPOs, and they need to add to create a significant size, and that is probably what is continuing to keep the stock at elevated levels. But if you really look at it, there are other opportunities, similar companies trading at lower valuations. Why would one want to pay that significantly higher premium when you can't see that kind of high growth coming in as well?
That's a call on HDFC AMC, 10% lower from the current highs. Amar, just let's get in some strategies from you into what kind of trades you can take going into next week. We're just about, I think, 8 minutes to go from market closing.
I would say one stock that one can look at is NTPC. What we are seeing in NTPC is that this stock has gradually moved from almost 150 levels to currently around 169, and technically, if I look at the charts, the trend definitely remains positive on the short-term and intermediate-term trend. On the long term, it has moved from oversold territory, so there is an upside to this stock. So any pullback towards 165, 166, that can be a good level to enter this stock, with a stop loss of 162 and a target of 178 on the upside.
What about you, Sarvendra, going into next week? This week obviously looks like we're going to be ending on a negative note for the indices, but anything in particular?
I will, one trade I'll reiterate, if someone wants to do as a STBT as well, I think Ajanta Pharma makes sense around these levels. if someone wants to do an STBT, you can look at a target not at 1220, but you can also look at a target around 1260 for Monday, and you can keep a stop loss in that case at around 1293.10 on spot. And another trade that I would recommend is a buy on Indian Bank. I think the way the daily reversals are now in place and the way it is closing today, I think for Monday this could be a 326, 327 kind of a trade. So anybody wanting to do that can also do that. The stock is right now at around 323. So a target of 326 is what I would recommend for Indian Bank, and I would keep a stop loss there at 321.40.
Okay, that's a buy on Indian Bank. Let's just pull up Godfrey Philip. Remember, the stock was up 9% yesterday. It's up another 4 to 4.5% today. Long positions we've been seeing. No news as such, but definitely the stock's been going up on good volumes. Lancelot, my last question would be on Sun Pharma. Let's just pull up that stock as well. We did see a gap down opening post the news of observations being issued for the Halol plant, but the stock's recovered 50% of the losses that we'd seen in the morning. What's the stock call here, Sun Pharma, since we've seen good gains coming in after the numbers they had posted last time?
I think from Sun Pharma's position, they are looking at mitigating the pricing pressure that they're seeing in the US by coming out with more specialty products, and as these products gain approvals, they will begin to the bottom line growth on the US market side of the business will start to improve. So I think that's a positive sign for Sun Pharma. In any case, all the pharma companies are on a long-term recovery path, and that could take maybe next 3-4 quarters before you begin to see a clear trend of an up move. So one has to, if you've not invested in it, then one has to be really careful and start buying only when there are significant dips or when there's negative news. But long term, I do believe that the pharma sector will be on a turnaround path. And maybe the next 2 to 3 quarters, that trend will get reflected. So Sun Pharma, one can buy it at this level as well.
Okay, Sun Pharma can be bought at current levels is what Lancelot has advised. Lancelot, appreciate you joining us today and taking us through your views on the markets, and have a good weekend. Well, Bank Nifty is just about flattish in trade. Nifty, second straight day of recovery that we've seen, and it was just on the verge of touching that mark of 11,600. But it's been a good recovery in the last 2 sessions that we've seen. After the first 3 days of this week, there was a sharp correction seen for the indices. With just about 3 minutes to go for markets to close, let's head across to Neeraj to find out how exactly today's closing is panning out. Neeraj, over to you.
Well, thanks for that, Navneet. Well, the large caps, and I'll bring you up to speed for that, and then we will take you to the mid caps and Devina then to the eventual wrap for the week as well. But yeah, about 1/3% for the Nifty and the Sensex. The Nifty Bank, maybe you could have bargained for more, but it's okay. It's not a bad close considering how volatile the last 1.5 hours have been for each of the last 5 trading sessions. The mid caps and the small caps though have done really well, particularly the mid cap index, which is up about 1.25%. The small caps up about 0.5%, and the market breadth positive in the session today, which is actually good news. Let me take you to the Nifty movers in the session today, and gains for autos by and large. So Hero MotoCorp, Bajaj Auto, both of them doing well. Bharti Airtel about 4.5%, so that's a good move too. Lupin about 4.5%, M&M about 4%. There are gains to Tata Steel and Ultratech Cement too. So good going really by and large for a lot of rate sensitives, particularly the auto pack and select banking names. Speaking of banks though, Yes Bank didn't have a great day, 4.5% lower. Sun Pharma News correcting about 2.5%. Must say it's off the lows of the day. Some weakness for HDFC and SBI, and ONGC was a stock in news today, down about 1.5%. And bringing up the pack of banking losers are stocks like Kotak Mahindra Bank, which is down about 1.25%. But if large caps had mixed bags, small caps and mid caps now need fabulous move.
Yes, a better day for the broader markets, definitely outperforming the benchmark indices. In fact, the market breadth today was also positive. So let me take you through a couple of gainers. First, Texmo Pipe, the stock's up over 60% for the week. Remember, they'd won an order worth 81 crore from L&T, and since then, the stock's been doing well. Locked in upper circuit with gains of 20% today. Hathway was the other counter, which surged in the second half of the session, surging nearly 12% in trade. And also something like Mastech, good move coming in there. The stock touched its fresh 52-week high, 13% higher for this one. Subin Life Sciences was up and about, some buying momentum seen, 10% higher here. And Aurobindo Pharma, what a move this counter has seen after announcing the deal yesterday. So today Aurobindo is closing with gains of 5 to 5.5%. And also the entire pack, the auto pack, was up and about. So something like TVS Motors and also Motherson Sumi had seen good gains, at least among the stocks which are also featuring in the futures and options market. TVS Motors was up 3 to 4%. Motherson Sumi ending the day with gains of 4.5%. On the losing side, a stock like TD Power System, it's been an underperformer on YTD basis, not doing too much. The earnings have not shown any good picture. 6% lower, selling pressure continues here. Shrey Infra was the other one of the top losers among the F&O stocks as well, 5% lower for this one. And something like REC, that saw selling pressure. Well, the stock has always seen sideways moves. There'll be days when you see an up move, then the correction comes by. And lastly, you have Adani Enterprises, where fresh contracts were issued in yesterday's session owing to demerger. And today the stock is down almost 4.5%, Devina.
Well, it goes to see now how we panned up in terms of the weekly performances of the index. While today's session and yesterday's session did see a bump up on the index, on a weekly basis, we've still not managed to breach into the green. But that's the snapshot of what we're doing as of now. We're probably going to be closing on a very flat note. 4 seconds left to go for market closing, so we'll wait and watch for the index, for the Nifty as well as the Sensex. The close on a daily basis is more positive, 1/3% on the Sensex. Nifty closing at 11,586. On a weekly basis, though, that number is still going to be a negative. Let's quickly take a look at what happened in terms of the breadth of the market. And as we started off, this is the weekly index for the Nifty and the performances over the last 5 days. So the best performing stocks include the likes of a Wipro, which saw a surge of about 7.5%. Bajaj Auto led by today's gains as well of about 4%. And the pharma pack, which has been the flavor of the week, large cap names like Dr. Reddy's, Lupin did really well, about 3.5%. Amongst the losers, you had an HUL, so the big, the valuation stretch that you saw in some of these stocks, probably seeing a little bit of a derating there. Stocks giving up, like Hindustan Unilever, by 8%. State Bank of India, Z, also giving up on the back of news. ONGC, Maruti, and Bajaj Finance are some of the bigger losers on the index for the week. Let's take a look at the broader market snapshot as well, and what were the kind of performances that we saw on the mid caps and the small caps. That's the market breadth for you. So not bad right from the start of the trading session. The opening was a bit more jagged, but towards the end of the trading session, we sort of stabilized and the gap widened for advances. 929 stocks on the NSE versus declines of about 639. Taking a quick check on the turnover and what happened in terms of the BSE cash and the F&O market. So you had the BSE cash clocking in a turnover of 3,453 crores. NSE cash 37,000. This is higher than the last 3 or 4 days average that we've been seeing, closer to about 35,000 on the cash market. And in the futures and options space, lesser than yesterday, obviously, because of the bank Nifty weekly expiry, but today clocking in about 67 odd lakh crores. Taking a look now in terms of the breakup of the Nifty point performance for the day. So what contributed yesterday was Reliance, and it's no different today. So Reliance is one of the bigger contributors today as well, followed by ICICI Bank, M&M, Bharti Airtel, and overall a positive point contribution of 100 points versus negative of 48 points, leading to a higher move of about 0.5% on the index. But that's what the markets look like for the day and for the week. Let's go across and get closing comments from both our experts who are here with us. Sarvendra, closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think this weekly close definitely would be important now, especially for the Bank Nifty, which is slightly underperformed than the Nifty. And the structure of the candle or the bar itself is slightly weak. So I would say that the highs for this week, both for the Nifty and the Bank Nifty, would be very, very crucial. So for Bank Nifty, we can put the level at around 28,300. And for the Nifty, the current swing high would be at around 11,793. So now till these numbers have not been crossed, I think we will be in a range. So essentially, I think for the Nifty, the trading range now stands at around 11,500, 11,450 to be precise, 11,450 to around 11,680 or 11,700. So around a 300-point range on the Nifty, and probably a range between 27,500 to a 28,000 on the Bank Nifty. So my sense would be that the next week could be slightly range bound.
Okay, next week could be slightly range bound. Amar, closing thoughts from you. What would the approach be next week?
I would say that the way the markets have bounced back, there is a potential of an upside, but again, it would run into selling pressure and profit booking coming into, because technically the charts are clearly displaying that the both major indices have gone in a consolidation mode, so it would be a range-bound trade. Again, for Nifty on the downside, 11,400, 440, that's a crucial level of support. Whereas on the upside, 11,680, 720, that's going to be the level of resistance. So Nifty is likely to trade range-bound, and the same would apply to Bank Nifty as well.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining in today and giving us your thoughts. Appreciate your time. Have a great weekend ahead. Markets ending on a good note. It's a wrap on this leg of Countdown. But as we say goodbye, Alibaba Group Chairman Jack Ma wishes to go back to the teaching profession once he steps away from his role at Alibaba. In an interview to Bloomberg, Ma says that there will be succession plan at Alibaba in place very soon. Listen.
I do a lot of things on education. This is because I think education is so critical for the future. So education, environment, these are two things that I focus a lot. There's no one thing is the most important. The most important is everybody do something.
To what extent do you think your identity as an entrepreneur has been shaped and forged by your first love, your first job, which was, of course, as an English teacher?
People don't like me talk a lot because I speak speak in the China and all the forums. That's because I'm a teacher. The only thing I can do is share. I learned so much from Alibaba. I learned so much from the Alibaba journey in the past 19 years. I think it's my responsibility to share. Whether people like it or don't like it, agree or disagree, it's okay. The thing is, you have to share because society give me so much resources, so much experience. You should not waste it. Share with the others. Maybe it's a professional disease I've got, teaching, you know.
Do you miss teaching? Would you like to be back in the classroom?
I miss very much. I think I came to business field it's an accident. I just started to do it. I think someday and very soon I will go back to teach. Go back to education. This is something I have more confidence. I think I can do much better than be the Alibaba CEO.
Well, that would be quite something.
Oh yeah, I love that. I think this is why I prepared the Jack Ma Foundation, rural area teachers, headmasters, kindergartens, all these things that I've been preparing for 10 years. So this is something that I want to devote of most of my time when I retire.
Well, when could that be, that transition?
Very soon you will know that.
So this would be you stepping away from your executive chairman role to focus solely on the Jack Ma Foundation with a focus on education?
Education, yeah.
Would you look at a Bill Gates model, for example, of giving away most of your wealth?
I think there are a lot of things I can learn from Bill Gates. And he's been, many years ago, so people say, Jack, no, Bill Gates. I say, well, I can never be as rich as Bill Gates. But one thing I can do better than him, I can retire earlier than him. Right? I can do something that is for education field. I can do unique, different, and something in my Jack Ma's mind. So I will learn from Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, a lot of great philanthropists in the world, but I want to do something using my own way.